Welcome back, everybody. Today, we're diving into something I think you've probably felt at some point.
Hmm.
That nagging sense of being like too connected.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? Like your phone is basically an extra limb at this point.
it really is.
You're not alone. So get this.
Okay.
The average person apparently spends like over 10 hours a day just looking at screens.
Wow.
10 hours. That's like a whole part-time job
Yeah.
just dedicated to our devices.
That's really fascinating because it shows how deeply technology has just woven itself
Yeah.
into our lives.
Right.
It's not even just a tool anymore. It's almost like
Yeah.
an extension of ourselves in a
Yeah,
way.
it really is.
Uh,
And that's exactly what we're going to unpack in this deep dive today.
right.
The idea of a digital detox.
Right.
Not about, becoming like a tech-hating hermit or anything,
Mm-hmm.
but just finding a smarter way,
Yeah.
a more balanced way to live
Absolutely.
with all this like amazing,
Yeah.
but sometimes overwhelming technology.
Right. What's interesting about a digital detox
Mm-hmm.
is that it's not about like rejecting technology altogether. Yeah. It's about
Mm-hmm.
reclaiming our agency, I think,
Yeah.
and using technology
Intentionally.
intentionally. Yeah, rather than it using us.
Oh, I like that.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. I'm already feeling less guilty about my own screen time.
Well, that's good.
So let's actually talk about what this overload is doing to us.
Okay.
I mean, beyond like, the obvious phone claw and the
Right.
occasional eye twitch.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's some real tangible downsides
Right.
to being constantly immersed,
Mm-hmm.
in the digital world.
Yeah.
Um, and one of the most significant, I think, is the impact it has on our sleep.
Okay.
So the blue light emitted from our devices,
Yeah.
it actually interferes with our body's natural production of melatonin,
Uh-huh.
the hormone that regulates our sleep cycles.
Interesting. I wonder if that's why I always feel like I'm playing catch up on sleep.
It could.
No matter how much I sleep, I never feel like fully rested.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
And it's not just the quantity, but the quality of sleep that matters, right?
That makes sense.
And beyond sleep, there's also this mental and emotional toll.
Okay.
Studies have shown a correlation between excessive social media use
Yeah.
and increased anxiety and depression,
Oh, yeah.
and even like a distorted sense of self-worth.
Oh, that comparison trap on social media.
Yeah, so-
I have definitely fallen into that black hole myself.
Oh, yeah. It's almost unavoidable.
Yeah.
In today's hyper-connected world,
Yeah.
social media platforms, they often showcase
Right.
the highlight reels of people's lives,
Yeah.
and it creates this unrealistic standard of comparison.
Yeah, for sure.
It's like everybody's presenting their best selves all the time.
Uh-huh.
So it makes us feel inadequate in comparison.
Absolutely.
Or-
So we're not just talking about like tired eyes. We're talking about like
Yes.
tired minds.
Yeah.
And I think this really starts to paint a picture of why, right?
This detox idea is gaining traction.
And it's not even just about the negatives, but also what we're missing out on when we're
Yeah.
constantly plugged in.
Yeah.
Think about the hobbies you've neglected,
Yeah.
the books you haven't read,
Yeah.
the face-to-face conversations you miss because you were scrolling through your phone.
You know what? That actually is making me a little sad.
I know.
Because I used to be such an avid reader,
Mm-hmm.
and now I can barely focus on a page
Right.
without getting the urge to check my notifications.
Yeah, it's a common experience.
Yeah.
And that's why a digital detox can be such a powerful tool for reclaiming those lost pieces of ourselves.
Yeah.
It's about creating space for the things that truly nourish our minds and bodies and spirits.
Okay. I am officially convinced.
Good.
So let's get into the how.
Right.
What exactly does a digital detox look like
Yeah, good question.
in practice?
Mhm.
Is it as extreme as it sounds? Do I have to like move to a remote cabin in the woods and live off the grid? Not necessarily.
Okay.
Well, some people might choose like a complete digital blackout
Mm-hmm.
for a set period of time.
Yeah.
There's a whole spectrum of approaches.
Okay.
It's about finding what works for you and your lifestyle.
That makes sense. So it's not like an all or nothing
Oh, yeah.
proposition.
Exactly.
It's about finding a sustainable balance.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah, for some people, it might be as simple as like designating
Yeah.
tech-free zones in their homes.
Yeah.
Like the bedroom or the dining table.
Mm-hmm.
Others might choose to schedule like regular digital Sabbaths
Okay.
where they unplug for a full day each week.
So speaking of specific strategies,
Yeah.
our source material actually lists some pretty interesting techniques.
Right.
I'm curious to unpack those a bit further.
Okay.
What are some of the key things that people can try?
Well, one of the most impactful strategies, I think, is
Yeah.
setting clear boundaries with technology. So, for example, you could try like turning off non-essential notifications on your phone.
Okay.
You'd be surprised how much calmer and more focused you feel
Yeah.
when you're not constantly bombarded with pings and buzzes.
That's fascinating because I never really considered notifications like a source of stress.
Right.
But now that you mention it, it makes perfect sense.
Right.
It's like our brains are being trained to just react to
Yes,
every little beep and buzz.
exactly. And that constant state of alertness
Yeah.
can be incredibly draining
Mm-hmm.
on our mental energy.
Right.
So by setting boundaries and minimizing those interruptions,
Yeah.
we give our minds a chance to rest and recharge.
I'm already making a mental note to tweak my notification settings.
Good.
What are some other strategies that stood out to you?
Another powerful technique is scheduling dedicated time for tech use,
Okay.
rather than just mindlessly scrolling
Yeah.
whenever the urge arises.
Mm-hmm.
So, for example, you could decide to check social media
Yeah.
only twice a day for like a set amount of time each session.
So it's about being more intentional with
Yeah.
our technology use,
Yeah.
rather than letting it dictate our every move.
That's the key.
Yeah.
And it's not just about like the quantity of
Yeah.
time we spend online,
Yeah.
but also the quality of that time.
Mhm.
Are we actively engaging with content that interests us,
Yeah.
or are we just passively scrolling through an endless feed of distractions?
That was a great point.
You know?
It's about being more mindful
Yeah.
of how we're spending our precious time and energy.
Exactly.
What about those like bigger chunks of time, like a whole day offline?
Yeah.
I have to admit that still sounds a bit daunting to me.
I understand that hesitation.
Yeah.
It can feel almost impossible to disconnect
Yeah.
for an extended period, in our always-on world.
Yeah.
But that's where the beauty of a digital detox lies.
Yeah.
It's about breaking those patterns of dependency
Uh-huh.
and rediscovering the joys of a slower,
Okay.
more analog pace of life.
Yeah. Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal,
Mm,
but I'm also the person who worries about missing out. You know?
right.
What if something important happens while I'm offline?
That's a valid concern.
Yeah.
But here's a question to consider.
Hmm.
How often is something truly urgent happening
Yeah.
that requires our immediate attention?
Yeah. That's true.
In most cases, things can wait.
Right.
And by disconnecting, even for a short period,
Uh-huh.
we give ourselves the gift of being fully present in the moment
Okay.
without the distractions of the digital world.
That's a really interesting perspective. It's
Yeah.
almost like shifting our focus from FOMO,
Exactly.
the fear of missing out,
Yeah.
to JOMO,
I love that.
the joy of missing out.
Yes. And by choosing to miss out
Yeah.
on the constant scream of digital noise,
Mm-hmm.
we open ourselves up to a world of possibilities
Yeah.
that we might have otherwise overlooked.
Okay, I'm feeling more inspired
Good.
to make some changes, but before we jump into the benefits and how to make this work long term, let's take a quick pause.
Right. Sounds good.
When we come back, I want to dig into some of the deeper reasons why
All right.
a digital detox can be so beneficial.
Yeah.
We'll explore the science behind it
Right.
and uncover some surprising insights that
Wow.
might change the way you think about your relationship with technology.
Sounds good.
All right, I'm ready to dive back in.
Me too.
We've talked about the problem of digital overload, but now I'm really curious about the why behind a digital detox. Like,
Yeah.
what's so great about disconnecting?
Well, aside from reclaiming time and rediscovering passions,
Mhm.
as we talked about,
Yeah.
one of the most significant benefits, I think, is the impact on our mental health.
Okay, let's unpack that a little bit.
Sure.
Like, what's actually happening in our brains
Mm-hmm.
when we take a break from the digital world?
Our source material actually cites
Okay.
some fascinating research on this.
Okay.
So you see, our brains thrive on novelty and reward.
Oh.
Every notification, every bit of new information triggers a release of dopamine,
Uh-huh.
which is a neurochemical associated with pleasure and motivation.
So it's like our brains are getting a little hit of dopamine
Exactly.
every time we check our phones.
That's right. And over time, this can lead to
Yeah.
a sort of digital addiction
Okay.
where we become increasingly dependent on those dopamine hits
Yeah.
to feel good.
That makes a lot of sense.
Right.
It explains why it's so hard to resist that urge
Yeah.
to check our phones even when we know we should be doing something else.
And it's not just about the dopamine.
Okay.
Being constantly connected
Mhm.
also keeps our brains in a state of hyperarousal.
Mm-hmm.
So we're constantly processing information,
Uh-huh.
making decisions,
Right.
reacting to stimuli.
Yeah.
And this can lead to mental fatigue,
Yeah.
stress,
Right.
and even anxiety.
So it's like our brains never really get a chance to like
Right.
rest and recharge.
Precisely. A digital detox allows our brains to shift out of that fight or flight mode into a more relaxed and restorative state.
That's incredible. I never realized how deeply technology was, like, impacting my mental state. What about some of the other benefits, like improved sleep
Right.
and increased productivity? How does unplugging help with those?
Yeah, so we talked about how blue light disrupts our sleep.
Right.
But a digital detox goes beyond just reducing exposure before bed.
Okay.
By stepping away from technology entirely,
Yeah.
we create space for our minds to unwind and prepare for sleep.
Yeah.
We're not bombarded with information. We're not making decisions.
Right.
We're not engaging in stimulating activities.
So it's about creating that buffer
Yeah,
between our busy digital lives and the tranquility that we need for restful sleep.
exactly. And as for productivity,
Yeah.
it might seem counterintuitive,
Okay.
but disconnecting can actually make us more productive.
Really?
Yeah, when we're constantly checking our phones and emails, we're fragmenting our attention
Okay.
and preventing ourselves from entering that flow state
Right.
where deep work happens.
So it's like we're trading shallow multitasking
Yeah,
for focused, intentional action.
precisely. A digital detox allows us to reclaim our attention
Okay.
and channel it towards the tasks that truly matter.
This is blowing my mind.
It's pretty amazing.
I'm starting to see digital detoxing like in a whole new light.
Oh.
It's not just about escaping technology.
Mhm.
It's about reclaiming control
Yeah,
and optimizing our mental and emotional well-being.
exactly.
Yeah.
And there's another fascinating aspect to this that I think you'll find interesting.
Okay.
Our source material highlights the link between digital detoxing and increased mindfulness.
Oh, mindfulness.
Yeah.
Everyone's talking about it.
I know.
But I've always struggled to actually do it,
I understand.
you know?
Yeah, it can feel a bit esoteric.
Yeah.
But the essence of mindfulness is simply about being present in the moment
Okay.
without judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And a digital detox can actually help cultivate this ability.
How so? I'm intrigued.
Okay, so when we're constantly plugged in,
Yeah.
our minds are often racing ahead to the next thing,
Yeah.
the next notification, the next email.
Uh-huh.
But when we disconnect, even for brief periods,
Mm-hmm.
we create space for our minds to settle and simply be.
So, like, instead of reaching for our phones every time we have a spare moment,
Right.
we can use those moments to just pause and breathe.
Exactly. Or you can observe your surroundings,
Mm.
savor a cup of tea,
Yeah.
or engage in a conversation without distractions.
Okay.
These small acts of presence over time
Yeah.
can help us develop a more mindful approach to life,
Right.
both online and offline.
I'm starting to see how all of this fits together.
Yeah.
It's not just about the hours we spend online.
Uh-huh.
It's about the quality of our attention, our mental state,
Yeah,
and our overall well-being.
you got it. It's about reclaiming our agency
Yeah.
in a world that's constantly vying for our attention.
Okay, I'm officially on board with this whole digital detox movement.
I'm glad to hear it.
But before we wrap things up, I want to
Okay.
get practical.
Sure.
Our source material mentions some specific tips for making a detox work. So let's talk about those and how we can actually put this all into practice.
Sounds good.
What are your thoughts?
All right, let's do it.
Okay, so let's talk strategy.
Right.
We're sold on the why of a digital detox, but the how is what trips a lot of people up, right?
Absolutely. It can feel really daunting
Yeah,
to just like overhaul your digital habits overnight.
right.
That's why our source material really emphasizes
Okay.
starting small and building from there.
Okay, I like that.
Yeah.
Baby steps.
Baby steps.
What would be like a good entry-level digital detox move?
One of the simplest but most effective things you can do
Okay.
is establish tech-free zones in your home.
Okay, so like declaring my bedroom a no-phone zone.
Exactly. Your bedroom should be like a sanctuary for sleep and relaxation.
All right.
Not a place to scroll through social media or answer emails.
Ugh, I'm so guilty of that.
I know most people are.
It's like the last thing I see at night
Yeah.
and the first thing I reach for in the morning.
It's a common habit.
Yeah.
But by removing technology from your sleep space,
Okay,
you're signaling to your brain that it's time to unwind and disconnect.
that makes sense. Are
Yeah.
there any other spaces in the home that are good candidates
Yeah.
for a tech-free zone?
The dining table's another great one.
Oh, yeah.
Mealtime should be about connecting with the people around you.
Right.
not scrolling through your phone.
Oh, I've definitely been on the receiving end
Yeah.
of that phone at dinner thing.
Yeah.
And it's not fun.
No, it's not. It can make people feel ignored and unimportant.
Yeah.
So by establishing these tech-free zones,
Right.
you're not only creating a more mindful environment for yourself,
Uh-huh.
but you're also showing respect to the people around you.
I like that I'm seeing like a ripple effect here.
It is a ripple effect.
Okay, so tech-free zones, check. What's another manageable tip?
This one might sound obvious,
Okay.
but it's amazing how much of a difference it can make.
Okay.
Turn off non-essential notifications.
Oh, yeah, we touched on this earlier.
Right.
But it bears repeating. I think we've all become so accustomed to those constant pings and buzzes that we don't even realize how much they're fragmenting our attention.
Exactly. Each notification is like a mini interruption,
Right.
pulling us out of the present moment
Uh-huh.
and back into the digital world.
Yeah, so how do we decide which notifications to keep and which ones to ditch?
Ask yourself, does this notification require my immediate attention?
Okay.
And if the answer is no,
Yeah,
turn it off.
just get rid of it.
You can always check those apps later
Yeah.
on your own time when you're ready to engage with them.
It's about being proactive rather than reactive.
Right.
Choosing how and when we interact with technology instead of letting it control us.
Exactly. And for those apps, you do need to check regularly. Try batching your time.
Okay.
Instead of constantly checking emails throughout the day,
Right.
set aside specific times to go through your inbox
Yeah.
and respond to messages.
So it's about creating like focused blocks of time
Yes.
for different activities, both online and offline?
Exactly. And this applies to social media as well.
Okay.
So instead of mindlessly scrolling, whenever you have a free moment,
Great.
choose specific times to check those apps and stick to a time limit.
I've tried those time limiting apps before, but I always end up just like ignoring the limits and scrolling anyway.
I hear you. It takes discipline.
Yeah.
But here's a little trick.
Okay.
Before you open a social media app,
Uh-huh.
ask yourself, what am I hoping to gain from this experience?
Okay.
And if you don't have a clear intention,
Yeah.
it's probably best to skip it altogether.
That's a really good point. It's about being mindful of our motivations.
Yes.
Rather than just like acting on autopilot.
Exactly. And speaking of mindfulness.
Yes, let's circle back to that.
Okay.
Earlier you mentioned like using those phone-free moments for things like deep breathing
Right.
or simply observing your surroundings. Like,
Yeah.
how do we make that a regular habit?
Start small.
Okay.
Even just a few minutes each day can make a difference.
Mm-hmm.
The key is to create space for those moments
Yeah.
of stillness and presence.
Okay, so like instead of reaching for my phone while I'm waiting in line
Yes.
at the grocery store,
Mhm.
I could use that time to practice some deep breathing.
Exactly. Or simply observe your surroundings.
Mm-hmm.
Notice the colors, the sounds, the sensations.
Yeah.
The more you practice bringing your attention to the present moment,
Yeah.
the easier it becomes to resist those automatic urges to check your phone.
This is starting to sound less like deprivation and more like
Yes.
liberation. Like I'm
Yes.
actually gaining something,
Mm.
not just giving something up.
That's the beautiful paradox of a digital detox.
I love that.
By letting go of the need to be constantly connected, we open ourselves up to a richer, more fulfilling experience of life.
Wow. Okay, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We have.
For our listeners who are feeling inspired
Hmm.
to embark on their own digital detox journey,
Yeah.
what's the one piece of advice you'd leave them with?
Be kind to yourself.
Okay.
It's not about achieving perfection, it's about progress.
Yeah.
There will be days when you slip up,
Hmm.
when you spend more time online than you intended,
Right.
or when you mindlessly reach for your phone out of habit.
Yeah.
Don't beat yourself up about it.
Right.
Simply acknowledge it, reset your intentions, and keep moving forward.
That's such an important reminder. It's a journey, not a destination.
Exactly.
And every small step towards a more balanced relationship with technology is a victory.
It is.
This has been such an insightful and inspiring conversation.
What it has been.
I know I'm walking away with a renewed sense of purpose.
Good.
And a whole toolkit of strategies to try.
I'm so glad to hear that.
Thank you for sharing your wisdom and expertise with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this deep dive
Yes.
into the world of digital detoxing.
Mm-hmm.
We hope you feel empowered to take control of your digital lives
Yeah.
and create more space for the things that truly matter.
And if you could reclaim even just 1 hour per day from mindless scrolling, what would you do with it?
Oh.
What passion would you reignite?
Yeah.
What deeper connection would you nurture?
That's such a powerful question.
I hope so.
We encourage you to sit with that for a while and see what comes up.
Yeah.
And remember, even the smallest changes can make a big difference.
They really can.
Here's to a future where technology serves us,
Yes.
not the other way around.
Here's to that.
Until next time, keep diving deep and stay curious.